Good morning. Please let me know if you can hear the music. I'm trying it and if my microphone is at a good level as well, because this is a new setup for me. So just curious if it's working for you. Getting myself organized here. Maybe turn the music volume down a bit. Thanks, Rodos. I'll turn it down just a little bit. Okay, that's the music down. Okay, and the attribution is working. That's good. Okay, I've turned it down a little bit. Turn the music down a little bit. I'm listening to the chill EDM station on Retzel today. Had the chip tunes going last night. My chair's a little low. Let me raise it up. Thanks for your help. So good morning. Thanks for joining me. My name is Kris. And now that I've figured out how to have the music playing, I don't feel the need to talk so much. I can just knit. If you join me, please say hello in the chat so I know who's watching. a lot easier to do this during the day when I get some light from the daylight from the outdoors. I was doing it last night and it's quite hard to see. Even I have, you know, extra LED lights set up, but nothing like daylight. This motif is finally starting to take shape. It's a very tall one. Obviously this particular chart has a lot of different motifs. And this is one of the longest ones. Oh, somebody else has joined. Thanks for joining us. Do let me know if the music is too loud or too soft for you. Hey, Jody, how are you? Oh, I miss you. I love seeing the photos of swimming in the pool with Cass. It looks really fun. I would tell him I wish I was there. We would be having so much fun in the swimming pool. The snow's all melted here. You know, we had lots of snow all last week, and now it's 99% melted. Apparently we're going to get some more in the next few days, though. And it's cold and blustery today, even though it's sunny. Yeah, I'm jealous seeing all the photos of you guys in Australia, able to go to things. Unfortunately, our lockdown's been extended another month. He wants to see you when it's snowing. Well, I'll make him, if I can't call you, I'll make him a video when it's snowing. We'll go outside and look at the snow next time it snows. Forecast is for snow next couple of days. So I'm trying to decide, Jody, what to do with the sleeves on this. So I'd originally thought I'd make it a vest, but now I'm actually thinking of doing a very short sleeve on it, almost like the Lenatus there that I did, you know. I mean, that's actually a little long, almost more like a cap sleeve like we did on those top down ones. So I was thinking about this yesterday, because if I steek the armholes and knit them in going down, like the idea, of course, is I would want the motifs to carry across the sleeve cap, you know, more or less. But if I knit down, the stitches will be upside down from the sleeves to the body, and I'm not sure if that'll look weird. So the other option, yeah, I think it'll look good. It's just a question of how I accomplish it. Like, I'm actually leaning towards the worst option, which is to actually divide at the armholes for the front and back and knit them flat, and then basically knit a sleeve and sew it in, because I think you're gonna need a seam line, really, because of where I can't do a raglan because of the decreases in the motifs. It'll muck them up, and I think it'll look crap. So I think you need a seam line. And so it's just a question of whether I go top down or bottom up. Yeah, I mean, it'll look, I think it will look the neatest if I divide and sew them in, but that means I've got a purl. in Farrell, which, I mean, to be honest, this pattern is written that way. It's written for flat, which is ridiculous in the first place. But yeah, I'm thinking cap sleeve. I'm thinking I can just use the existing sleeve for the pattern and just start it basically, you know, there. Yeah, it has to be the same direction. Yeah, start it. And the other stupid thing with this pattern is that the charts for the sleeves are different than for the body. So they don't actually match up there at all, which I think is dumb. I would prefer them to look, for it to look, I mean, it's not going to look perfectly contiguous because of the seam, but I would prefer them to match up. So that's what I'm going to do. Otherwise it looks a little, you know, patchwork and random. Yeah, the motifs will look different. Yeah. And then I can do a little corrugated. I know, why are the charts different? It is so weird. I mean, do I have the picture of it? I don't think I have the color picture of it. But there's for example, there is a color. This thing uses 12 colors of Rowan felted tweed. One of the colors is only used on the sleeves. Yeah, it's a Rowan pattern. So yeah. So there's this yellow color that I don't even use on the body, is only used in the sleeves. And since I'm gonna chuck the chart sleeves, the sleeve charts, and use the body charts again, I have an extra ball of Rowan. Unless I sub it in for something. And the tension on that thing is so wrong. I mean, I had to go up to a 4.5 to actually get pattern tension, which is what I used on the bottom, the corrugated ribbing in this bit. I actually find it a bit loose. So round about here, I switched to using a 4 mil. I figure that'll also give it a little bit of a shaping through the body. But the pattern says that you're supposed to get like 25 stitches over 4 inches using like a 3.25. Rowan felted tweed on its own recommends like a 3.75 or a 4. So why you would knit it as a 3.25 stranded with 2, I was getting, I mean, even going up to a 3.75, I was getting like 30 stitches to the 4 inch. So it's just madness. They don't, like, they have errata for that pattern, but they claim that is not one. But if you read the comments on Ravelry, everybody has difficulties with the sizing on this thing. So I've basically chucked the original pattern instructions out the window. What are you working on at the moment? Anything? Just you still doing the blanket, the blue blanket? Yeah, at my 30 stitches to the 4 inch, it was really quite stiff, that tension. The blues blanket, yeah, the Cassidy blanket. Kelly was telling me last night that the weather's been lovely, not too hot until really just here recently, so I expect you're able to get a little bit more work done on it than you would have otherwise in the middle of summer. Ah, you're already at the halfway point. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I have a feeling I have a quilt, a patchwork quilt, that I started several years ago that is sitting here unfinished. It's actually a t-shirt quilt I made from a bunch of my and Rod's old, college and early in our dating history, like concert t-shirts and stuff. And so I've got the top finished. There were a couple blank squares that I was embroidering on. And so I just need to do a bit more embroidery. And then I can actually put it together and quilt it. It's been sitting for years just because it's too damn warm in Australia to want to have a quilt on your lap. 3/4 point is it's for a single bed. Oh, that's nice. Oh, so it's a parallelogram. Gotcha. All right, next row. I think the camel goes away at this point. Yes, and the navy comes back in. Navy. So are you back? Are people back in the office now? Are they working, or are people working from home? I mean, I think you were going in some days, weren't you? 2 days a week in the office. Oh, that's. We were talking to Rod's parents this morning about the fact that we leave the house to go to the grocery store and go for a walk every now and then. Had to have the bicycle guy come out to service our bikes because the last time both of us went to ride them, they wouldn't change gears. And it turns out it's because they froze up in the cold weather. We had a few people who had been in lockdown or were in areas of concern. Oh, in your office. Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, I saw you're back to having very little in terms of locally acquired cases, which is awesome. I saw an article last night I was talking to Kelly about that the film industry is just kind of going nuts in Australia right now because all these international productions are coming because it's safe, you know? It's oh look, you can even see outside a little bit. I do that. Yeah, our numbers are going the right direction, but they're still far too high. We just a week or two ago Bavaria has been one of the hardest hit regions in Germany, so they bumped us up to where now, you have to wear N95 masks in the grocery store or in public transport, so no more homemade masks or like just little surgical masks. They have to be the tight fitting N95, so I had to buy some off Amazon. And then curfew 9 p.m, although I don't know why that hasn't actually affected me given that I never go out. Yeah, I read about Matt Damon quarantining in a private property, but it said he was paying like hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. So, sure. And flew in on a private jet. Like, it's not like he's taking, he's literally not taking any spots from anybody else. So, sounded interesting. What's the other rule? You can only mix with one person from outside your household. Again, not really an issue for us because, don't actually really know that many people here. The most interactions I have is with the Amazon delivery guy. Oh, the film production is paying for it. I see. I thought he was. The article in The Age said, or it seemed to indicate. But at least it's good for Kel in the local industry. I mean, that's a Taika Waititi. They're filming the new Thor movie, and oh, that's what he's there for, isn't it? That's right, Matt Damon. That's what it said he was doing. Five visitors a day to the house. That's amazing. Well, our trip to Italy for our anniversary at the start of April is looking increasingly dicey. I mean, it was, look, we got the reservation 6 months in advance, thinking for sure things would be better by then. But I've been reading about the tennis players. I mean, it does suck they can't train, but like, should have come out earlier. And they're in hotel quarantine, like taking up spots that, people could have had. Are they vaccinating at all in Australia yet? Like, we were talking to Rod's parents this morning, and I'd asked them if either of them had heard from their GP about it, but they said no. Figured the oldies would have at least been, queuing up. I guess it's not nearly as much of a, not as critical. I mean, my grandmothers have both, I think, have both now had it in the U.S. My dad told me he'd asked his doctor, and they did the 80 and up, and then they were doing the 70s and up, and as soon as they're doing the 60s and up, he'll be in the queue. Yeah, they did fly charter flights. I did read about that for the tennis players. That's true. But the optics of it aren't great. Oh no, that's so they're worried they won't have the vaccine supply. That sucks. I mean, Germany's ramping up. Rod was saying this morning that the 100 and some thousand people have now gotten their second dose. Obviously, we're not anywhere near the queue yet, but Angela's pushing it as much as she can. I mean, there's so much state power here that she actually doesn't have a lot of. I don't think she can actually tell people what to do. All she does is get them together and then ask them to do it. I nearly bought another cake of that Twister. Because I realized that shop, the people who make it, Hobby, they're in like Denmark. And so I clicked on one of their Instagram ads, and now they advertise to me constantly on Insta and Facebook. And they've had a lot of sales on. So was very tempted to get another of the Twister. And then they also do a very similar long gradient, which is like a wool with a bit of cashmere in it. Like, it's a little bit more, but would be slightly warmer. And they have a free pattern for another of those sort of top-down jumpers, but it's slightly different. I think it was called the Helga Blusa. Let me see if I can find it for you, because it was actually really cute and I downloaded it. I should put it in our shared folder thingo. Helga pullover. There it is, without sleeves. Check this out. So it's a top down. It's got the eyelets, but they're kind of like radially placed. And yeah, that uses the Dolce cashmere. So that's the stuff that they recommend. So I've literally got one in my shopping cart on this website. I just have not yet hit the button. And that's an interesting one because it doesn't really have a proper sleeve. It's just a little cap sleeve. Because I think the cashmere is slightly shorter meterage on the ball. But yeah, it's a free pattern. You just have to sign up to their newsletter. But I already grabbed it, so I can share it with you. But yeah, I'm thinking about that. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the placement of the eyelets, you know, they're symmetrical from the top down, but looking at it from the front, you know, it actually is kind of asymmetrical, which is cool. I was just trying to figure out a gradient that I wanted. It's hard to tell just from the balls, so I was actually on Ravelry and looking at, I mean that, and for the twister, looking at different colorways and seeing what people had done with them. Because I feel like some of them go like dark to light to dark, and I'm like, I don't want like a band across the middle. I'd much rather have a smooth from, and I think I liked the way mine went from a lighter color down to a darker at the waist. I feel like that's very flattering. So I'm trying to get something like that. But without cream, because I look terrible in cream. Oh, it's warm in here. Should crack the window. Have you guys been doing Thursday night knitting? Is there a seam? I didn't think there was the seam. Is there? Oh, maybe it's a faux seam. It looks just like, it's like a patch of reverse stockinette or garter stitch or something like that. I downloaded the pattern. Where are you? Where's my downloads? I mean, I'm sure the pattern is actually in German, which I hadn't really thought about that fact. Yeah, it's knitted in the round, so it must be a sort of a fake seam. I mean, the pattern's really short. It's really only one page. Hey, Margaret, I wondered if you'd pop in. It's always good to see you. People keep tagging me on Twitter with the Moomin yarn. So that's a Finnish company that's brought out a line of yarn inspired by Moomin. Yeah, The Thin Man. That's with Nick and Nora. Isn't that a Nick and Nora movie, or am I confusing it? It's a famous one. That's set in, it's in Germany, isn't it? Part of it. Is that the one with the Ferris wheel? Look at me. Yeah, Nick and Nora. See? Film degree. It's all coming back to me. Oh, they've got an Australian store, Jody. Interesting. Oh, it's not the Ferris wheel one. Okay, that must be something else. All right, I'm going to crack the window. It's a little warm in here. One sec. The couple actually like each other. When does that even happen? I've only been watching trash. I've been watching Bling Empire on Netflix, which is like, Jody, it's Crazy Rich Asians, but it's the reality show. It's like the Kardashians, but it's the first reality show in America with an all Asian American cast. I mean, it's trash, but it's fun trash. Even Rod's enjoying it. The character we love is this woman who is, she's like part Russian, part Asian, the daughter of an arms dealer, and she's like super rich, but she's actually really cool and chill. And like, I don't know. Like, oh, I want to be here when I grow up. She just like buys her friends fabulous things, but she's not like ostentatiously wealthy. You know, instead of going to fancy boutiques, she just has them come to her house. She's a little bit of a recluse. Yeah, it's very bingeable. There's a couple bits that I laughed out loud at. And the other one we watched an episode of, I don't know if it's on Australian Netflix, but it's huge here, is this French show called Lupin, which is, yeah, it's a French one about this. I mean, Lupin is like a famous French literary character who was a gentleman thief. And this is a modern day project, series about this, fancy thief who idolizes Lupin. And, oh, on the Orient Express. Oh, interesting. Oh, no, you're talking about different series. Sorry. British food writer catches fancy trains and eats lots of food. Oh, interesting. That sounds good. I mean, unfortunately, the Orient Express, I believe a lot of it is like, oh, hang on, I'm not really centered anymore. You can't actually take the same journey that they would have in Agatha Christie's day. But Lupin is good. Bling Empire is good. Lupin, the problem with Lupin is you either watch it dubbed or you watch the original but with subtitles. And of course we watch it with subtitles, but then I can't really knit at the same time. But yeah, Lupin is like the biggest French series in a long time, and it's gone sort of globally viral, I think. I caught up on What We Do in the Shadows. We watched the 2005 Bleak House adaptation with Gillian Anderson and which was quite good. I mean, I'd read it on a BuzzFeed list that was like, saucy. If you liked Bridgerton, you'll love these saucy ones. Nah, it's nothing like Bridgerton. Nobody gets nude. There's no sexy times. It's Charles Dickens. It's EastEnders with corsets. Blown Away. What is Blown Away? I feel like I should start weaving in some ends soon because there are a gazillion in here. Oh, the glass blowing. Oh, there's a season 2. I didn't know that. Oh, I loved season 1 of that. I'm gonna have to watch that. Good tip. I really enjoyed season 1. I love that lady, the middle-aged cranky lady who won. Grand Designs Australia, yeah. All right, end of the row. Okay, now I need to swap out the pine for one row, one stinking row of the teal color. But see, my favorite on Grand Designs, the British one, my favorite were always people who had a ton of money, but also knew what they wanted and just paid people to actually do it. So, you know, it's the ones that had very little drama, because there's no drama over whether they're going over budget. Yeah. So what am I using? I'm using Notability, which is just, it's one of these note-taking apps. And so I've put the PDF on it, and I've just drawn some lines so I know where I'm starting each motif and where the current line that I'm on. And so the interesting thing is, because I changed I'm knitting it in the round, and I want the patterns to be continuous all the way around. So I had to do all this stinking math the other day. I've got this whole sheet where I was trying to work all this out, because I was trying to find the least, I was drawing them out and counting how many stitches each repeat was, because I was trying to find the least common multiple that all the different motifs would go into and find the number to cast on. And problem is, I've got 4s, 6s, 10s, 12s, and 16s. And so the bitch of it was the 10. Everything else will go into 336, which, originally I'd cast on 304, so it's not that far off, and besides, my tension is a little tighter than the pattern, so that's good. And then I realized if I made the 10 a 12, that solved all the problems. So that's the one change I've made to the chart is, and it's the motif here with the green and the red, that one. And so there's there's an X, and then there's a sort of a little diamond shape. And so I've literally added 2 stitches in, and I've put a dot in between each one, just so it isn't an overly large gap between them. So I made it from a 10 to a 12, and that solves the problem. So I've got 336, and I mean, that's my seam line. And yes, of course, there's a jog, but still, it's technically contiguous, which I'm happy with. All right, what am I doing? Teal's coming in. But yeah, I had we had an all hands, and I was listening in and doing math on the side the whole time. But Notability is pretty good. I mean, it's like Evernote or any of them that you can upload a PDF and then write on. I mean, I use the pencil, but it's not one of those Knit Companion or any of those. Okay, what am I doing here? It's just alternating, starting with a navy. Right? Starting with a navy, yeah. I screwed this up last night. I knitted a whole round with the wrong color and then had to undo the whole thing. A few people watching. Welcome to anybody who's just joined. I've obviously, you guys would have seen since you last saw it, I've learn to do some new stuff with this software. So I've got my little slideshow going with different knitting projects. I've got the music happening. I only figured that out last night. And if anybody follows me, I have this alert thing that should pop up, but nobody's followed me yet. So if somebody follows me, that'll be cool. We'll get to see that. Oh, head off, Cat. Head off. Say hi to Cassidy for me. Go to bed. It's late in Australia, and you've got work in the morning. Nice to see you, though. We should do like a proper video chat knitting this week with Amy. I would love to catch up with you both. I feel like we haven't chatted in forever. Oh, you have a day off tomorrow. What for? Is it just you have a day off or is it a holiday? Oh, wait, it is. Oh, yes, it's the holiday. I forgot. Yeah, I've been reading about all the, you know, perennial arguments. Later. Yeah. Invasion Day. I saw ScoMo was like, well, it wasn't great for the people on the boats either. And it's like, well, if it sucked for everyone, why bother having a holiday at all then? Idiot. Yeah, imagine everybody would be taking Monday off. I did see that the Get on the Beers remix made it into the Hot 100. That was awesome. Ah, Miss Australia. What did he say? I didn't see what Dan Andrews said after that. For those who are not Australian, one of the state premier, the state premier for Victoria, where Melbourne is, made a, at a press conference earlier this year talking about the COVID lockdown and restrictions and everything. And someone in Melbourne remixed it and set it to dance music. And it actually got into, the top, I think it was it the top 10 or top 20 songs of the year? Now that a politician has made the hottest 100, it can no longer be considered hot. Yeah, amazing. Although I'm sure one of the Pauline Pants Downs got in the past, so that was more of a mockery though. Number 12, wow. All right, go to bed, go to bed. I'm just gonna go grab a glass of water. I'll be right back. say the water in Munich's really nice. I mean, it's really hard water in that it has like a lot of minerals in it, but it tastes good. What prompted watching The Thin Man, Margaret, if you're still on? Out of curiosity, are you watching old movies in particular for a reason? Yes, yes. If you read, tell Will, don't put hard water through the coffee machine. Yes, if you read my my blog post on coffee, which was the latest one, I think, we tackle that issue. Rod has bought a special. You get special Brita filters here. They're demineralizing or something. So all the water that goes into the new coffee machine goes through the Brita. Otherwise, the coffee machine, when he ordered it, comes with like stuff you can put in it to actually do it, but it's more expensive, and so the Brita filters are the way to go. So we've just got that happening. Motif is turning out rather nice. Oh, Nick and Nora glasses. Like drinking glasses? What's the one I'm thinking of? The famous, movie Ferris wheel. 1941 movie with a Ferris wheel? What movie is that? Oh, no, not the movie 1941. Classic scene. Ferris wheel? What am I thinking of? The Third Man, not the Thin Man. The third, that's Orson Welles. Yes. Yeah, because I was like, why is Orson Welles popping into my head? The Third Man is the one that has the Ferris wheel scene in Germany. They're named after the characters. Oh, the martini glasses. We actually need to get some. Rod was complaining the other day we don't have any martini glasses here. I guess our landlords didn't drink a lot of martinis. He was drinking a martini out of a coffee cup the other night. Are they the sort of straight-sided or the coupe style? I'll have to look them up. I didn't know they were named after that. Much smaller than the current popular cocktail glass. Yeah, the ones Rod had back in Australia are really tiny little, coupe style, almost like a champagne, coupe or however you say it, but quite little ones. I'm digging this chill EDM station I've got going. Not really an EDM connoisseur, but it's pleasant to knit to. So he can drink several of them. Yeah, well. I'm not really a martini fan. Rod is. No, he's the only one that drinks them. I remember many years ago, not long after we moved to Sydney, we had a group of his mates from uni, and we called it a martini club. We had a group blog where we were reviewing martinis at bars around the inner west. And, you know, I remember one particularly messy night that started at Calitos during happy hour. But there was famously, we went to, what's the one over in East Sydney? It's like the Lord Roberts Hotel or something like that. It's near Bill and Tony's down in East Sydney. But anyway, it's someone had found out that it's where they make Baz Luhrmann's favorite. That's where he goes to drink his martinis, because he lives over there somewhere. So yeah, we tried them out. They were all right. Yeah, we've ordered a case of beer Friday night. I ordered it from Durst Express, which means Thirst Express, and they deliver here in Germany. So we just got a case of one of the local, Munich lagers. I mean, oh, are you showing me the Nick and Nora glasses? Having a look. Cocktail Kingdom. Oh, it's taking a long time to load. Maybe it's not letting it load for me. Yeah, this does not like getting a ton of redirects. It does not like people from overseas clicking it. I'll have to look later. So if anybody on the stream has not been on here before, my name is Kris. I'm an American Australian. I live in Munich, Germany. And I'm working on a pattern called Orkney, which is by Marie Wallen. It's from Rowan number 42, I think. And if you go back to my previous streams, you'll see I actually started knitting this 7 years ago. It's the pattern is written as a cardigan. I started knitting it 7 years ago in the round, adapted in the round, and knitted the entire body with steeks, got up to the shoulders, realized it was massively too small, only somehow realized it at that point, and then put it in the naughty corner for many years. And so my New Year's resolution was to deal with it. So I got it out. I tried desperately to make it work in terms of the sizing, but it's just way too small. And a huge problem is the tension. The tension is written for this pattern is wacky. There's no way it's correct. They tell you to get 25 stitches over 4 inches using 3.25 mil needles on Rowan felted tweed DK, which I went up to like a 3.75 and I was getting 30. So I have no idea how they think. I mean, Rowan felted tweed on its own recommends a 3.75 or a 4. So I have no idea how they got the tension. Somebody's smoking something. I'm currently, so I pulled it all apart. And if you watch previous streams, you'll see I reclaimed all the wool because it's 12 different colors, painstakingly wound them into skeins, washed the skeins, dried the skeins, and then rewound them all into balls. And now I'm knitting again. I'm not going to do a cardigan this time. It's going to be just a pullover. And I'm using the chart, obviously, and the wool, but I'm kind of not really using their pattern. So I'm thinking, So I'll go up to the armholes, and then what I'm thinking is I'll divide at the armholes. And that will mean I knit front and back flat for the front and back at the top, but then I will, I'm thinking I'll do a short sleeve. That's what Jody and I were talking about earlier on the stream. I'm thinking of doing a short sleeve, like a cap sleeve, and sewing that in. I should have enough. That was the other problem. I was worried I was going to run out of wool to do the long sleeves. So if I do short sleeves, I should be all right. But yeah, that's what this is. This is it's a modified Orkney, I guess we'll call it. And I'm knitting, when I do 2-color knitting, I do 1 color in each hand. So you can see normally when I'm knitting, I'm a thrower. I normally just put the working wool in my right hand and I throw it. But when I do 2-color, I've forced myself to learn to do continental style, which is holding the working wool in your left hand. I mean, I'm not the super fastest at it, and the way I hold it is slightly different from people who were taught to knit that way, but it works well enough for me. As you can see, my left middle finger ends up doing a lot of work in catching the wool and making the stitch. But it's a lot faster than putting down and picking up all with one hand. So if you want to do 2-color knitting, highly recommend you force yourself to learn to do two-handed. There are some videos of this, by the way, on my YouTube channel. I should put that in the Slack. Or Slack. Too many Slacks for work in the chat. There's my YouTube. So the streams stay up here on Twitch for 2 weeks, and then I archive them over to YouTube. And I've also got some technique videos up there. So I did a technique video for corrugated ribbing. That's this bit at the bottom, how you do corrugated ribbing and don't end up with the little blip of color at the bottom. So I talk about techniques for doing that. Interestingly, for the corrugated ribbing, I do not do 1 color in each hand. I mean, I can, but it's actually a pain because you have to purl. And so for that, I actually hold both wools in 1 hand. And I demonstrate that on the video if you want to see it. But there's a couple other videos. And there's a video about purling and knitting flat stranded knitting. Because stranded knitting like this is a lot easier when you're going in the round and all you're ever doing is knitting. If you knit flat back and forth, you have to purl. It gets to be a real pain. All right, getting to the end of that row, which I think now the aqua color is going to go away. Break that off. What's my next color? So I'm use my iPad to keep track. And so the next, what is the X? I made myself a little cheat sheet for all the symbols because I get confused on which color's which. So X is the gray color. Ugh, I hate it. It's hard to see. Margaret says, went to the Maritime Museum today, looking at exhibitions list. Oh, I love the Wildlife Photographer of the Year. Yeah, I'm big fan of that. Those are always fun. There's the gray. The Maritime Museum is fun. We went once a few years ago, realized we needed to play tourists in our own city back in Sydney. And yeah, I enjoy going on the reproduction boats and reading about how people migrated to Australia. Navy, 2 navy, then gray, to join on the gray, I just put my needle in as if I'm gonna knit. Keep all these ends out of the way, and then I take the gray. Where's the tail? There it is. And I leave myself a nice tail, what is that, sort of 4 or 5 inches? Put it around the needle tip and make the first stitch. And then I'm doing 3 navy, 1 gray all the way around. So 1, 2, 3 navy, and now I need to do a gray. Just make sure I'm not using the tail, just using the working yarn. And obviously, so for this first stitch, I want to not pull it super tight because if I do, I'll just pull the wool right through. So nice and loose, and I'll just do a couple. Do one more gray. And now what I'll do is I'll go back and I will, so I've got that gray tail that I just started, and the, where's the teal, the aqua tail that I just finished up with. And so I'm just gonna loosely tie those together in a bow, just to keep them out of the way and to keep the tension fairly even. It's not that. And so that's what you see on down the inside here, is this is all the color transitions. So at some point I'm gonna start going back and weaving in those ends on the back side. But for now, that just shows you how I do each color transition. So get my wools organized here. And I'm always keeping the same wools in the same hand. Hey Woben, how are you? Thanks for joining. Yeah, there's a theory called yarn dominance, which basically, and you can see demonstrations of it online. People have done samples, but basically when you're doing two color knitting in this way, one color in each hand, the color that's on the left is gonna pop more. So, I mean, you can't really tell now because it's this gray, but yes, Woven says, I hope you don't mind me tagging in all those Instagram giveaways. No worries, that's cool. I mean, I haven't won yet, so, but that's fine. Tag me in, and now I'm seeing their ads and stuff. But yeah, when you carry two yarns, I mean, whenever you do stranded knitting, you want to keep the two yarns in the same orientation. You don't want to twist them around each other as you knit. And so when I do this, what it means is that the gray yarn is being carried, this is the gray, is being carried underneath the navy on the back. You see, when you're not using you can see here better with the red and the cream, that the cream is underneath the red. Actually, that's the wrong row. The red is underneath the cream. That's actually two, yeah. So this is a row. The red is underneath the cream. The color that comes from underneath is the one that's gonna pop a little bit more. The stitches, and you can read, if you Google yarn dominance, you can read why. But basically what it means is I tend to always carry the background yarn, in the background color in my right hand, and the accent color, the color I want to stand out more in the left. Obviously here using gray and navy, it's not going to make much of a difference. But when I was doing some of the other colors, it does. Margaret says, ask my mother if she wanted to come other stuff on. Yeah, it's a lovely, I think the Maritime Museum is a really nice one. And, you know, it's just funny. Like I had lived in Sydney for many years, and we realized neither of us had ever been there. I think, isn't there a little lighthouse you can go up in? I remember. Got some photos from the top of that. And they always do interesting exhibitions in the summer, I think, for kids. Like, yeah, kind of a cool place. This is 3 navy, 1 gray. So now you can really see the pattern, what it's actually looking like. I like this one, it's kind of cool. There is a lighthouse, not sure if it's open right now. Yeah, I've got pictures on my blog from years ago when we went. There's a bunch of museums, and I mean, I don't think I've ever been to the Museum of Sydney. I've been to the Australian Museum. That's the one with the dinosaur bones and all the minerals and stuff. That one's really cool. Haven't been in a few years though. But the Museum of Sydney I always would love to go and check out someday. We had planned that, you know, winter would be when we go and check out all the museums in Munich, and unfortunately they're all shut. So that plan didn't quite work. You know, I had blogged about the fact that, you know, if we're here for 2 years, that's what, 100 weekends, and we want to make sure we use them wisely. We're trying to get out and do something every weekend. Yeah, unfortunately, COVID kind of killed that plan. Man, these colors are so difficult to distinguish. Are the cinemas open, Margaret? I've been seeing all the photos of everyone in Australia just like going about life, and it's, not gonna lie, a little bit jealous. We are locked down pretty tight right now. And the snow's melted. I mean, I guess you can see out the window a little bit there, but yeah, we had lots of snow for the last week, but it's just all melted in the last 2 days. But we're supposed to get more over the next few. The Museum of Sydney's a bit pricey, is it? I will. Yeah, I've never been, so I'd like to go at least once. It was interesting. One I did when my mom last came out to visit was the, oh, what do you call it? Well, because I bought my stepdad and my brother tickets to climb the bridge. And they gave you, as part of that, a couple free tickets to the is it the pylon? Yeah, the pylon, which is the end of the bridge closest to it. And so my mom and I did that while the boys climbed the bridge. And I actually loved that. That was really interesting because they had this sort of exhibits as you climbed up inside a building of the bridge and stuff. And the view from the top was amazing. And I was sort of like, wow, I had never bothered to do that. That was a pretty cool thing. Cinemas are open? Maybe? Yeah. Yeah. I don't, it's hard for me to imagine when I will feel comfortable going back to a cinema. I just keep thinking about the fact that like a year ago we went to see the Lemonheads play in Sydney at the Oxford Art Factory on Oxford Street, and it was standing room only. It was packed, crowded. And I'm like, oh God, like that many people all around you right now feels so strange to me. The very concept of it. I know my knitting group back in Sydney are all trying to decide if they're going to enter the Easter show competition this year. I mean, presumably that means the Easter show is going ahead. Like, I'm surprised by that. I guess Australia, like, you guys are doing a lot better than a lot of the world. Yeah, I miss going to restaurants. All the restaurants are closed here, except for takeaway. It's just, yeah. I don't like to complain. People have it a lot harder, but man, all the things I moved to Europe for, I can't actually do any of them right now. It's a little sad. Seven donut days in Sydney, no local transmission. That's awesome. That's really good. I should try and get out for a walk today. It's very blustery out today. I was telling Rod's dad this morning that I had to get my bike serviced because the gears froze up. Literally froze in the cold. They're working now that it's warmed up, but yeah, the hub gears got moisture in them and literally froze. So I was stuck in first gear. I mean, if we have to be be locked down. I'd much rather be locked down in winter than in summer. I knit so much faster when I've got this music on. If I'm gonna do more corrugated ribbing on the sleeves and collar, I might need more of that gray. I'm just thinking, because obviously I'm down to about half a ball at this point. It's so difficult to tell these stupid colors apart. That reminds me, Margaret, it's going to be a fun game for a while to guess when shows were filmed. You know, we were watching that Bling Empire, that trashy reality show, and my husband was like, wait a minute, this was filmed pre-COVID, right? And I'm like, it has to be. It has to be. Oh, I didn't show you the jumper I'm wearing. This is it. This is the last one. You've now, on the stream, seen every sweater that I brought to Munich with me, which I think is like a dozen. So the one I'm wearing, I do have a better photo of it for you, is the Stag pullover by Nora Gaughan. And so I knitted this one, I think last year. I think I finished it last year or the year before. Oh, I can't remember. It might have been the year before. I put it in the Sydney Royal East show. Didn't win. But I just loved the idea of using cables to do the stag head. I called it my Baratheon jumper because of Game of Thrones and the stag of House Baratheon. It is super warm. It's knitted out of 10 ply. And so it was, I mean, despite the, the intricacy of the cables, it was still fairly fast to knit. So if you want to see it on Ravelry, there's a few other photos. You can see some of the details. I've made it publicly available, so I'll put it in the chat. There's the Ravelry link. I did make a few alterations. Because my row gauge is always tighter than the pattern specifies, like the stag was going to end quite a ways, an inch or two further below the collar. And so I actually made the antlers go up a bit higher. I just kept extending them up because I wanted them to finish closer to the collar, to the neckline. And then I did short row shaping. Thanks, Margaret. I did short row shaping for the shoulders and did a 3-needle bind off. I hate sewing shoulder seams. That's hard to say fast. So it's got 3-needle bind off at the shoulders. And then instead of knitting the sleeves flat and sewing them in, I actually picked up from the shoulder and did a set in knit in sleeve. This is a technique that I learned about where you basically do you start up here at the top of the shoulder and you do short rows and you gradually eat up one stitch at a time until you get all the way around. And so you can basically do like a set in sleeve, but you can knit it in from the top down. And so, and then I just had to, of course, I had to reverse the cable pattern for it to get it to go the right way because it was going top down instead of bottom up. But less sewing in. I'm all about that. Yeah, that's the Stag Pullover by Nora Gaughan, if you want to look it up. Yeah, I love the sweater. The wool that I used, I'm not 100% happy with. It's a very special yarn, actually. It was from a project in Australia. This woman organized it called the Ton of Wool. And basically, people think of Australia as being the center for wool production because, we raise lots of merino sheep and beautiful sheep. But not much wool is actually commercially produced in Australia. The raw wool is often sold overseas, like it's bought in Japan or in Italy. It gets spun. A lot of it is spun in China, and then it gets sold back to us. So, back when I worked in a knitting shop in Sydney, people would always come in asking for like nice local wool, and there's just not much. And so this, one of the problems is that like the last commercial scour closed. Are you heading to bed, Margaret? Okay, good to see you. Thanks for coming by. And so a scour is where they actually prepare the wool. They have to like wash all the lanolin out. They have to get all the, just get it clean. And I mean, one of the problems with it and why so little of it is done in Australia, is that a scour is actually really environmentally bad. It can be extremely bad. And so they're all in China at the moment. Like, they don't do them in Australia because to make it environmentally friendly would be cost prohibitive. But anyway, this woman I know in Australia many years ago organized this like crowdfunding campaign to basically buy a ton of wool of Cormo, which is the breed of this particular wool, and to get it actually scoured and processed in Australia. So it was entirely locally done. And so I backed it. And so I got, as a result of backing it, I got like 10 skeins of it. And obviously it's cream because it's undyed, it's unprocessed. And then I ended up buying some more skeins from one of my friends who backed it. So I had enough to do the sweater. And it was very soft to knit with. It was actually lovely to knit with. But it's because of the way it's been spun, it's going very felty. And if I actually, like, it's pilled a bit. Like if I show you, you can see a little bit of fuzziness and a little bit of pilling. But it's really quite warm and quite thick and quite felty. Under the arms is felted, and pilled. I need to get a sweater shaver. I've bought some over the years, but all the cheap little plastic ones fall apart. I want like the best sweater shaver that money can buy. I'm willing to invest if I can find one that isn't. I mean, maybe I just need to buy like a men's electric razor because really that's all they are. A sweater, like you literally, for those of you who don't know, like when your sweaters pill, you can get a sweater stone or a sweater shaver, a de-piller they're often called. But it's like an electric razor for your sweaters. And the little plastic ones you buy in craft stores are just crap. They break very easily. and they don't work well. So what a good one. If anyone has a recommendation, please let me know. Gray, 1, 2, 3, gray, 1, 2, 3, gray, 1, 2, 3. It's so hard to tell if your pattern is correct when the wools are so similar in color. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Do a gray. Right. Next row. One navy, 3 gray. So flip it. Okay. Oops, whack the camera. All right. 1 navy, and then 3 gray. It's kind of a zigzaggy pattern, I guess. I mean, at this point, I'm just mirroring, you know, the bit here below is actually going to be repeated now at the top. So I'm just trying to make sure. So notice, because I'm doing 3 grays and then a navy, I'm trying to keep the stitches spaced out before I do the navy, because I don't want, you know, I'm carrying that long float across 3 stitches. I don't want it to be too tight. I want the tension to be fairly consistent. So, you know, if I were to like yank that tight, it would screw up the tension. So I'm always constantly shifting the stitches along. It's really important in stranded knitting to get a nice even tension through your fabric. You wanna keep spreading the stitches out along the right hand needle, so when you're carrying your floats, they are appropriately loose and not too tight. What is that? Did I miss a stitch there? No. Just a particularly loose one. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I like having the music now that I figured that out, and I don't feel obligated to talk quite so much. You'll notice that I'm pulling from the center on these cakes that I wound. It's just nice. It keeps them from rolling around. Keeps the wool from, when you want, it also means they collapse a bit so the wool's not under any stretch or tension. People wind balls, and if you wind a very tight ball, you can actually sort of destroy the elasticity of your yarn. So if you do a cake like this and make it a center pull, and make sure that you have something when you wind it that you pull in, you flip in and out on center pull. You mean you're not a fan of center pull? I always go for it. I mean, the only times I don't, Woben's saying they go back and forth on it, is if a long gradient yarn where I particularly want to start from the outside. But normally my preference is always center pull. Even if it's commercially wound balls of yarn, I'll dig in and find the tail out of the center. Oh, yeah. If you're using a very thin yarn, sure. If you're using a 2-ply yarn, it's a lot of yarn barf and tangles. Yeah, that will happen, actually. I mean, this is an 8-ply, and I wound it myself, and I think I did a pretty decent job of doing it, too. My little winder actually does a nice job. It's coming out pretty clean. I think you're right. I think on Lanatus, which was the 4-ply, I'm pretty sure I actually knitted off the outside for that. Because, yeah, in a thin yarn, it is quite easily to get a lot of tangles come out of the inside. I think I did some of the balls from the outside on that one. And, of course, towards the end, I was actually knitting, when I was doing the sleeves, I was doing one sleeve from the inside of the ball and the other sleeve from the outside of the same ball, which is doable, but you have to stop every now and then and untwist it, or you end up in a horrible tangle. This is going to be the slowest row because I'm having to do so many stitches in a row with my left hand. The inner and outer of 4 balls at once, dear Lord. Yeah, that would be a nightmare. I mean, the most complicated one like that I've done is doing 2 socks at a time on 2 circulars and using the inside and outside of a ball at the same. Because yeah, you can get yourself into quite a state that way if you're not careful. Keep spreading out the stitches. The purple's the other color I'm worried about because I've used a fair bit of it. And I mean, the good news is, like, because of the way it being feral like this in the motifs, if I have to get another ball from somewhere and the dye lot isn't the same, well, it'd be extremely unlikely that the dye lot would match. At this point, I bought this wool 8 years ago. It shouldn't matter too much as long as the color is fairly close. They won't be up next to each other, so you wouldn't notice. My worries, I think a couple of these colors are discontinued, but I think the only one, like I said, there's only the gray and the purple, I think, that I feel like I might be in danger of needing more of. It's not making me sneeze anymore, so I don't know why it was before. If it was just that there was still dust in this area from when I'd frogged the old jumper. But thankfully it's not making me sneeze anymore. Or it was unrelated and it was just the weather. I love the colors of this wool, but I actually hate the wool. The felted tweed is just, it's itchy. I'm not gonna lie, it's itchy. You know, I'm usually not too picky with sweaters. Like, I actually have historically had not a lot of patience for people who are whine about itchy sweaters. But this is itchy wool. It's, you know, it's fairly hairy. And I don't like super hairy. So it's only going to be ever worn on top of something else. It is not going to be worn next to my skin. I did a whole cardigan out of the felted tweed once. It's on my Ravelry. It's the Paper Dolls, which is a pattern some of you might be familiar with. But it's so itchy. I rarely wear it for that reason. Are glorious. And I mean, you do, like, traditional feral was done with a, you know, Shetland wool is pretty hairy. You know, it sticks to each other, sticks to itself. And that's part of the reason why steaking and things like that work, is because the wool really wants to felt up on itself. the end of this row. I want to get rid of this gray. It's so murky, these colors. Purple's gonna come back into it, isn't it? I think so. Oh, this is murder on my left hand, this particular row with all these stitches. Stop and stretch. What's the next row gonna be? Yes, purple. Purple and gray. The navy is going away. Finally, I can break it off. Okay, navy goes away. Yeah, see, I'm getting low on the purple. Bilberry, I believe, is the actual name of it. Got my little cheat sheet, which has the samples and the actual color names and the symbols, because I keep getting confused. Okay. Finish these last few with the navy. That's it for the navy, really. Okay, 1, 2, 3, stitch marker. Next row starts with 2 gray. 2 gray. 1 purple. And then it's going to be 3 gray, 1 purple, I think. Oops. 1, 2. So I'm still doing so many with my stupid left hand. Okay, I'll stop and I will loop the last of the navy and the purple together there, just gently. Tie them in a bow, get them out of the way. So I'm keeping the colors going in the same hands each time. So the gray, even though it's hard to tell, is technically the accent color here against the, the purple. So we're repeating. So now I'm gonna get back in. I think I gotta do this purple and mustardy zigzag again. And so the purple's the background very much so. So I'm keeping that in my right hand and the other accent color in the left hand. It's just that this particular row, I've got to do 3 of the accent and 1 of the background. Which makes it a little slower going because I'm not as good as a continental knitter. Not as fast as I am as an English style thrower. So this is my usual day, usual time that I knit. So if you want to join me, I have been doing, like I did an extra session yesterday. Honestly, I might start doing one midweek. We'll see. Now that I've got a good setup that I like. If you subscribe, you'll get a notification whenever I start streaming. So you can just hit the button to follow or subscribe. Last night I was on and there was someone, I assume a young person, I don't know how young, but was playing Fortnite on a Switch while watching a knitting stream on their phone at the same time, which I just found really charming. And just was chatting to this person while they were playing Fortnite and learning all about Fortnite Arena and lots of different types of people on Twitch. I haven't had any followers for a week. Maybe I've exhausted the number of people who are actually interested in knitting streams. That's all right. I'm very grateful for the people that are joining me every now and then. Especially during lockdown. It almost feels like a stitching bitch. Oh, it's very windy out there. Obviously, this is a fairly advanced thing I'm working on, but you know, if anyone watching ever wants basic learn to knit stuff, just put in the chat. Let me know. I was watching a local German knitting stream the other night. I think it was Red and the Wolf Designs, and she keeps a separate ball of wool and needles, so that when anyone asks a technique question, she can just switch over to that and do some demonstrations, which I thought was a really cool idea. So I could maybe do that if anybody has generic questions. Maybe I'll just shut up and we'll just knit together. Punching up. One of the challenges with knitting is it's very easy to get into a situation where you're sitting with very bad posture. My old knitting group in Sydney, my Knitters Guild, we would actually start our meetings with 5 minutes of yoga, seated yoga. I'm just gonna stretch my shoulders behind my back. I have a tendency to want to hunch over when I'm knitting. It's not great for you. So stop every now and then. Oh, cracked. A little better. Sit up straight too. I mean, this chair, I've got a gaming chair, and it's got pretty good support. So it's actually, it's actually less painful than knitting on the couch and being slumped up on the couch. I should like set a timer and every 15-20 minutes just do that. Getting hungry. I'll have to stop for lunch soon. Coming in the window. It's a nice little breeze. I should go out and go for a walk today. But will I? Streaming's working much better since our internet got upgraded, isn't it? You know, before, earlier on streams, I was having trouble where it would break, crap out in the middle, but have not had that problem. And I also got a new laptop, which has more RAM, and that also seems to be helping quite a bit too. I was actually kind of curious how it would go with the music at the same time. Hasn't seemed to cause any issues at all. Guessing it's a bit late for the Aussies. They're all going to bed now. Oh, someone is raiding my channel. Holy moly! I've never been raided before. That's exciting. My first raid. Hey, that's so cool, Miss L. Thank you. I'm honored that you chose to raid me. That's amazing. Greetings. Greetings, new people. Hi. My name is Kris. I am an American Aussie, but I moved to Munich 5 months ago, Germany, with my husband. And we're under lockdown, so yeah, I don't have anything to do but knit. I've only been streaming for like the last month or two, basically out of sheer boredom. Hello, hello! Oh my god, so many new friends! Wow, that's cool. Oh, and I've got new followers following me. That's super neat. Oh, look! Oh, and I've got my little alert. That's the first official alert that I've had. Oh, you guys have made my day. That's so cool. Oh, I'm gonna have to, Miss L, I'm gonna have to check out your stream then and follow you. So lovely to meet you all. I've been knitting for like, I didn't learn to knit as a kid. I've only been knitting, I grew up in America. I moved to Australia 20 years ago and pretty much learned to knit in Australia as a grown-up. But I like cables. As you can see, I'm wearing the stag jumper. Here, I've got a better photo of it so you can see. So I usually wear hand knits on my stream. This is the stag jumper from Nora Gone. I finished that one a year or two ago. And entered it into a knitting competition in Australia where it did not win. Whatever. Thank you. I'm a big fan of cables. I like cables a lot. I also obviously really like Fair Isle knitting. So what I'm knitting at the moment, this is Orkney by Marie Wallen, which is it's from a Rowan magazine. And if you saw any of my previous streams, I started knitting it like 7 years ago. And then realized as I got to the, I modified it. The original pattern is a cardigan and it was knitted flat, which nobody got time for that. So I combined it into the round and was doing steeks. And so I knitted it all the way up to the shoulders and then realized that it was way too small. It was coming out way too small. So I shoved it in the naughty corner as we knitters do. And it's been in the naughty corner for like 7 years. And so it was my New Year's resolution this year to actually deal with this. So I pulled it out and oh my God, so many new followers. Wow. Oh, that's where all the knitters are. I wondered where all the knitters are. And so, yeah, I decided my New Year's resolution was to deal with Orkney. And so I frogged it. So a couple streams ago, I just pulled the whole thing apart. And it was so dusty from being in a bag for 7 years, it made me sneeze. And then I skeined it and I washed all the skeins to try and get some of the dust off. And then I wound it all up into yarn cakes. It's 12 different colors, 12 different colors. And so now I'm using the charts, same charts, but I'm not gonna, yay, 50, oh, my 50 followers. Oh, wow, how amazing. I didn't think I was gonna get there. I literally like 10 minutes ago was like, I guess I've found everyone who wants to ever follow me. Oh, thank you. Thank you all so much. Where are you all located, incidentally? Because I was just saying, like, I tend to get people watching from America or Australia, and it's quite late in Australia and quite early in America. So are you all Europeans or what? But yeah, on Orkney, what I'm doing is I'm using the charts, but I'm not following the pattern anymore. I'm gonna do a pullover, so I'm not cardiganizing it anymore. It's gonna be a pullover. And I'm thinking it might have like a cap sleeve, a short sleeve. UK, Australia, UK. Oh, okay. Oh, it's the British knitters. I lived in London for 2 years. That was before I knitted. Oh, that's so awesome. I'm actually hoping to get to the UK. So now that I'm in Europe, we booked tickets in November for the Ocean at the End of the Lane that the Royal National's doing. So I booked tickets for November, hoping that by then we'll be able to get into the UK and out without having to quarantine. But maybe I can meet some of you in person in November. We can do a Stitch and Bitch or something. But awesome. Oh, I've got so many new friends. Yay. Okay, I'm nearly at the end of this row. I've got to start weaving in ends. I mean, look at this. This is... So one thing I did that I'm proud of is, you know, here's that. Actually, that's marking the start and end of, yeah, Neil Gaiman. Love Neil Gaiman. So that's the start and end of the round. And obviously, because it's in the round, there is a jog. But I actually did the math to try and figure out how many stitches to cast on for all of these designs to be, you know, I didn't want to have any of them be broken. And they're not. They are contiguous. And so the problem was, if I pull out the pattern and show you this thing, because you guys, it's a nightmare. Yeah, this thing is an eye chart, okay? So I've got the PDF version on the iPad. But here, the red numbers are where I was calculating the repeat, the length of the repeat for each of these motifs. There's 4s, 6s, 12s, 10s, and 16s. So I had to figure out the least common multiple that all of them would evenly fit into that was roughly a size that would fit me. And I worked out that the 10 was the crappy one. So I actually bumped the 10 up to a 12, and then that solved the problems. I figured out 336 all of these fit into. So I'm doing 336 stitches around. And yeah, I'm going up to the armholes, and then that's the decision point, what I do at the armholes. I'm thinking at this point, I will probably split and knit flat for the front and back at the top. I mean, purling with 2 colors is annoying, but I can do it. So I might do that. And then, because I feel like I need a seam for the sleeves, like... I'll use the same chart because I want the designs to kind of continue across the sleeve. But because it won't match up perfectly, I feel like you will need a seam there. So I'll probably sew it in. Yeah, it is a ton of work. I don't know why. I don't knit simple things. I only knit ridiculously complicated things. Yeah, I can't just knit like a normal, like just a garter stitch blanket or something. Actually, the last project I finished is coming up in the slideshow. The last one I did was it's called Lenatus, and it's from the new book Evolution, and it's in the slideshow. It's a sort of teal fingering weight stranded yoke jumper. You'll see it come up. All right, next row. Color. I'm still doing grays and purples. Let me move my little markers so I don't get confused where I am. All right, so we've just done that row. Okay. There it is. That's the one. That's Lenatus in the snow, the picture with the teal and the white that I just finished. So if you watch the previous streams, you'll see me working on that one for like 8 episodes. So top down, and the ferrule is the fun part, and then the body was just like endless 4-ply fingering weight, I guess you'd call it, probably. Just round and around forever to get it long enough for me. Okay. And so next row is 1 gray, 3 purple. It's just going to be 1 gray, 3 purple all the way around. I was actually wondering, I'm like, maybe this is a bad time to stream if so many people are not, like, I don't know. Trying to figure out the best time. Like, I don't have that many friends in Europe yet. They're all in the US or Australia, so that's why I've been trying to pick times that work better for them. But hey, I've just met a ton of new people in the UK, so this is not a terrible time. Oh, cool. I'll be excited to see. You generally do 11 a.m. Munich time, which I think is an hour ahead of you all in the UK. Yeah, every Sunday. So that's my normal time for doing it, about this time. Usually wrapping up about this time, actually. I tried it like a year or two ago. I had someone suggested I knit on Twitch, and I didn't have a good setup, and I gave up because you couldn't see what the hell I was doing. But this, I've actually got, I'm using my iPhone for the knitting, you know, the down camera, and I've got a fancy microphone. Actually, can I, if I point down, you can actually see my setup. There you go. So you see I've got my iPhone on my microphone stand. I've got it kind of, I've got a crappy little, what do you call it? A tripod, one of those ones that kind of like wraps around things. And so I've got the tripod with the iPhone on it kind of mounted onto the microphone arm, pointed down, and that works well. Then you can actually, yeah, on the mic arm. Somebody suggested that to me, and I was like, that's genius. And it's got the nice, I mean, this is actually the ultra wide angle. I can even, because I've got an iPhone 11, I can switch to a closer view, but then I feel bad, because then I feel like I need a manicure because my nails are terrible and it's so dry here. So go back to the ultra wide. You guys pushed me over 50 followers. That's so cool. I've been chasing that one for months. I'm really honored. Oh, another one. Woo! Thank you, Colina. I'm still actually figuring out OBS, like, that's the software I use for streaming. I only figured out the music literally like yesterday, how to get the music playing on it. One, two, three, purple. I've done some sewing, like, so I keep the streams up for 2 weeks, but if any of you are interested, I have a YouTube channel, and so I basically archive them over to there. So I'll put it in the chat. That's my YouTube. So the previous streams are on there. But I did some sewing on it as well over Christmas, because I sew as well. And my sewing machine, my beloved sewing machine, finally arrived off the boat from Australia. So I did some sewing, and I streamed that over the Christmas holidays. So if you want to see me make a couple shirts, a couple blouses, that's on the YouTube channel. And I've also got a couple technique videos on there. Like, I shot a little technique video when I did the corrugated ribbing for this, because it's a little tricky. Yeah, definitely Putty Tapper is talking about the music. So I'm using Pretzel Rocks to do the music, and they have a setting where you basically, it's all copyright free anyway, but they also have a special setting, which I have ticked, which is for YouTube. So it actually, yeah, you should check it out. The pretzel, I was surprised. I actually haven't done an export to YouTube yet with it, but I've ticked the YouTube safe option. So theoretically, it won't trip YouTube's algorithms, but we'll see. It's just when I had no music and only like 2 people watching at a time, it just felt so weird to be sitting here talking to myself the whole time. Yeah, I only just discovered, I mean, I saw Twitch have this soundtrack thing, but it's only for Windows 10 and I use a Mac, so couldn't use that. But yeah, I was saying my YouTube has a couple technique videos on it. I did one for the corrugated ribbing. When I was knitting it, I shot a little video showing different techniques for doing corrugated ribbing, how you avoid the blip of color showing through when you start the first row of it. And Things like weaving in ends and stuff. How can you knit so swiftly? When I learned to knit back in Australia like 10, 15 years ago, actually may have been a bit earlier than that. It was when the Harry Potter movies were coming out, and I was sort of a big fan, and I wanted to knit myself one of the house scarves, because I'm a Gryffindor. So I wanted to knit myself a Gryffindor scarf. And that's like a 6-foot long rugby scarf. And I didn't want it to have a wrong side, so I actually learned to knit on a circular needle so I could knit it as a tube and then flatten it. And that's a lot of knit. It took me about 20 hours to make a single scarf. And then, of course, my sister wanted one and a couple friends wanted them. So I spent like a good 6 months just churning out these giant stocking stitch scarves. And you get pretty fast, That is really how I built up the muscle memory to knit fast and to have fairly even tension. So it's just cranking out thousands and thousands of stitches. I'm an English style knitter, so I usually, if I'm knitting with one color, I hold the working wool in my right hand. Oh, somebody made a Doctor Who scarf. Yeah, I made a Doctor Who scarf as well, not the official BBC one. I did a version, a sort of modified modern version, so it was done in garter stitch, which is, double knitting, reversible knitting. Yeah, I've looked into it, and I actually started a double knitting cowl last year in lockdown. It just did my head in a little bit. I know the technique. I just haven't. I don't actually knit that many scarves anymore, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm normally an English style knitter, so I tend to hold the working wool in my right hand. I forced myself to learn continental just for doing stranded knitting like this, so I could carry one color in each hand, because it's a lot faster than dropping the yarn each time. I'm still not as good with my left hand, but it works well enough for this. And I make sure as I'm doing this, I'm carrying always the background color in my right hand. For yarn dominance, because the color you carry in your left hand tends to pop a little bit more. So I tend to carry the accent color in my left hand and the background color in my right hand. And it helps me go faster because it usually means there's more stitches in the background color, and I knit faster with the right hand than I do with the left. Exactly the same as Farrell, except you purl with one color and knit the other. You're basically working a 2-color 1x1 rib. Whew. Yeah, I tend to like knitting complicated things, which has been a problem for the stream because I get distracted. Like last night, I did an entire round and one of the colors was wrong. So I had to spend 20 minutes on the stream tinking back the entire row. Are metal knitting needles better than other materials? I think it really depends, to be honest with you. I have a set. These are actually, these are the Addy Click interchangeables. So these are they come off. So you can actually swap in and out different sizes. The other interchangeables, the Knit Pros, I only ever buy circular needles with a cable on them. I never buy straight needles anymore. I like the circulars too much. These have a sort of springy click action. I know the Knit Pros and other ones have a screw that screw on. But yeah, I like using interchangeables. These, because this wool is kind of felty and hairy and sticky, I feel like if I were using bamboo, it would maybe catch a little bit more on the metal. And so it's really a preference for a match between the yarn and the needles. Like I do have bamboo circs, wooden circs. Some of the Knit Pros are like a rosewoody kind of a wood. I think in general wood is better for you if you have like, when I worked in a knitting shop back in Sydney for a few years, Yeah, I think for people who have, and look, I don't know if it might have been a bit of woo, but like I feel like if you have repetitive stress or arthritis or anything like that, I feel like a wood needle or a casein is another material you can get, which is like a natural plastic they make from milk. Casein needles, they're just a little, they flex a little bit more, and so they're easier on your hands than metal can be. Um, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the older bamboo do catch. Oh, see the chiagu. Someone was recommending those to me on the stream before. I'm not familiar with them. I hadn't seen them in Australia before, but apparently they're really nice. And I mean, the cable is the thing. Apparently, the cable has like no memory, which is really cool. I mean, the other thing you care about is the pointiness. Like these addies are not too pointy. But like if I'm knitting socks or something on a fine needle, I tend to want a pointier needle. I've heard if the bamboo, I mean, if you get some sandpaper, you can maybe sand them down a bit. That might help if they've, because I've actually had a few of my old bamboo ones actually chip or split at the tip. So I think you can sand them down and that'll help. But sometimes you want that, like if you're working with a very slippery yarn, on a slippery yarn on a metal needle, your stitches tend to fall off the needle. And that's where having a wooden needle can actually be an advantage. Any recommendations for the pretzel users on stations to listen to? I have the chill EDM going, which I'm not like a massive EDM fan, but I'm enjoying this. Like it's just a nice little beat to knit to, and it's not distracting me with lyrics. But if anyone has any recommendations, I've only been using it for 2 days now. Oh, my neck's cracking. I was saying earlier, my old Knitters Guild back in Sydney, we would start every meeting with 10 minutes of seated chair yoga because it can actually be murder on your back. That is one of my challenges. I am a fast knitter, but I'm also a tight knitter. I tend to hunch up and, when I'm knitting quickly. And I always have to go up several needle sizes to get the tension. You've been doing the shanty top woven. Yeah. Yeah, when the sea shanty trend hit, I was thinking about the fact that we were talking about that cabled jumper from The Mandalorian, the one that the Mon Calamarian wears on the ocean planet. And I was like, I should knit a cabled fisherman's sweater while listening to sea shanties. Could be thematically appropriate and match the music to the thing I'm knitting. if any of you want to follow me on Ravelry, I'll put, this is actually the link to the stag jumper that I'm wearing. I've made it publicly available. But if you want to check out the Ravelry page, if you want to follow me on Ravelry, I actually need to catch up. I didn't even put the last jumper on Ravelry. I need to go and actually, don't use it as much as I used to, but I still like to document my projects on there. So I need to put Lenatus on there. And revive this thing out of hibernation. Okay, coming up to the end of that round, and I'm really hoping I can get rid of the gray at this point. Ah, that's a nice motif. I like that little pop of red in the middle. Yeah, come on, here I am. All right. Yay, I'm done with the gray. What color is the plus sign? To refer to my little cheat sheety thing. I think it's the. I made a little cheat sheet with samples of each color because I keep getting them confused. It's the mustardy color. It's called cinnamon, but it's a kind of a. That's it. Kind of a brownishy. I mean, to me, that's like a spicy mustard. Okay, so gray finishes up. Break it off and leave a bit of a tail. And actually, this is what's gonna start happening now, is because I've reclaimed this wool from the previous time I knitted it. I'm gonna start coming up against a lot of knots where I had to join the wool back together. Gonna have a lot of ends to weave in on this. All right, so 1, 2, 3 of the purple. And then, oops, sorry. 2 purple. Another follower, thank you. Rock out guy. All right, ready for cinnamon. 1 cinnamon. So again, I just leave a nice tail, sort of 4 or 5 inches, loop it over the needle to make the first stitch. And then I think it's 3 purple. Yeah, it's 3 and then 1 this row. And so just make sure I'm not knitting with the tail. Leave the tail and make the stitch. And it's just, you don't want to pull that one too tight, or you'll pull the tail, you'll pull the yarn right through. So I generally do a couple stitches, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, and I'm just going to take those 2 tails, so the one I've just started and the one that I finished, which was the gray. I'm just going to tie them together in a little bow just to keep them out of the way on the back side. I will later go back and undo all those knots and weave the ends in. Thanks, Lil Belka. Wow, this is my biggest stream ever. Thanks to this raid. You guys are amazing. It's so nice. Really, really nice. Plugging away with like 2 and 3 people on at a time. Not that I mind. Love all of those, you know, chats we had, but wow, having a big group is a whole different dynamic. My viewers per stream average is gonna go through the roof after this. Hello, Just Liz. Yeah, my Ravelry, the notebook is a little out of date, Ada. I need Dreaming in Ada. I need to go back and fill in some gaps. It probably still says I'm in Australia. I don't even think I've updated it since then. You UK folks, did you get any snow? Remember when I lived in London many, many years ago, we did get a little bit of snow one winter, but you know, not normally. We've had snow here. The last 2 weeks have been covered, but right now it's almost all melted. But there's more forecasts. A little bit. Wow, okay, that's cool. Yeah, we had a white Christmas, which was nice. And it should be a little bit more coming in the next 3 days. But I understand, you know, it's like it used to be common in Munich, but talking to locals, like for the last 15 years, thanks to global warming, they don't get a lot of snow in the winter. So it was unusual that we had it for the last couple weeks. A little bit just now. It is nice. I mean, I can wear warmer sweaters here, warmer jumpers here than I could in Australia. I mean, this stag pullover I'm wearing, this is in Aran weight, in 10 ply, as we would say in Australia, Aran weight, or a heavy worsted. And it rarely gets cold enough in Sydney to wear anything that thick. But in Munich, I can wear it. So I've brought all the heavy duty jumpers to Germany. Definitely think I'm gonna need more of this purple. Might have to, yeah, I mean, where do you even get rowan here? Probably directly from the source, which means I'm gonna have to figure out, I understand postage from the UK is a real pain these days, but might be my only option to get another ball of this. I don't know if any of the German stores carry it. Maybe there's a local stockist. They're all shut down for lockdown, but I'm sure I can get something mailed to me. Just a little worried I'm gonna run out of the purple. Bilberry. If anyone has a ball of bilberry rowan felted tweed, let me know and you're willing to part with. Oh, I like that. That's looking really nice. I have an extension cable for this that you can snap onto the Addy Click, so I might actually try it on. Just to see how long it needs to be to get to my armpits when I divide. What's everyone working on at the moment? People knitting? Crocheting? I did see the crocheted Bernie Sanders. I assume, like the rest of you, when you are the knitting friend among your friends circle, you get tagged and shared every stupid knitting thing that comes along on the internet. So yes, I've seen the crocheted Bernie Sanders. I don't really crochet. I've crocheted like one throw, but I just find I'm not good at crochet. Like, I feel like it uses an area of my brain that is different to knitting. And every time I've done it, I could probably do a granny square woven. I think I can do granny squares. It's like I have to relearn crochet every time I do it. It just doesn't, for some reason, doesn't stick with me. It just doesn't feel as natural as knitting does. But the amigurumi stuff is very cute. Stitch and Shy's trying to learn to knit better. Yeah, I think knitting, excellence in knitting is great deal of it is just down to practice. I mean, doing this two-handed ferrule, I've got a sweater I did. I'll wear it on some future stream, but it's an all-over sampler, and I just forced myself to do it. And when you knit enough of it, you get better at it. Wildflower cowl. I will look that up, Dreaming in Ada. Oh, and so it's Ada cross-stitching. I wondered if Ada was a reference to cross-stitching. Actually, I was saying earlier, I've got a quilt top. My mom's really into patchwork. She's got a patchwork quilting shop in the US. If anyone ever goes to, if anyone ever travels internationally anymore, if you get to America, my mom's got a really nice little patchwork quilting shop. She lives in Indiana, which is Amish country, so patchwork quilting heaven. Long tail cast on, but I'm convinced I'm doing it wrong. I can do that if you want. I can show you a long tail. But yeah, I've got a patchwork quilt I'm working on. I need to do a little bit of, I'm doing some embroidery on a bit of it. So I need to get that out at some point. Maybe I'll do a little long tail cast on for you, Stitch and Shy. Why not? Just because I'm getting bored. Let me just grab, I'll just use a little bit of this wool. I have a spare set of needles somewhere. Yeah, so this is, the Addy clicks actually come with a connector, so you can connect multiple cables together to make a really long one, but I don't need that at the moment. I actually don't need 2 needles to do a long tail cast on. Long tail is my preferred. If I don't have to cast on a ton of stitches, I prefer doing a long tail. But like with this thing, with doing 336 stitches, it's hard to gauge how long a tail to leave yourself. So, all right. So let's say I don't know. I'll make my knot. So I make a slip knot, and the way I make a slip knot is I take the yarn, I twist a loop, and then I reach through the loop and grab the tail, and that makes my slip knot. So I'll put that on the needle tip. I know some people do it one-handed. I can do it one-handed. I prefer doing a two-handed long tail. So for me, you do a backwards loop on the needle. So, and again, this is just muscle memory. Like, I've done it so many times. It's actually one of those things that's actually hard to describe to other people. So I do a backwards loop, and then the right hand, and it's because I'm a thrower, I'm very comfortable doing that with two-handed, and then the left hand loop goes over and off. So again, it's a backwards loop, knit, basically then you're knitting a stitch, and then the loop comes off. And the trick, for me, the hardest part of doing this is doing it without making it super tight. Because the inclination is to pull it tight, and you can see I'm trying very hard to leave it nice and loose, so my cast on isn't too tight. I mean, I have done where I cast on a bigger needle than what I'm actually going to knit with, because then it forces you, gives you a little bit more looseness in there. I'm seeing the comments here. Oh, your long tail holds together, but they don't stretch like the ones on videos I watch. It's probably just because you're doing it tighter. That's probably just it. Oh, thanks, Jammy Heel, for the follow. Yeah, just try. Some people do it over 2 needles held together. I find that awkward. So for me, literally what I do every stitch is I'm like, think loose. Think loose. Think loose. And I do not, you resist the urge to you could I can pull it up tight, and then you see the difference in that. See how bunched up those stitches are compared to the others? You want it to be spaced out pretty evenly. You long tail with both ends of the ball. Oh, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, you can use a separate yarn for the long tail. You don't actually have to use, I mean, it is like my very mild superpower is gauging how long to make the tail. So I it's like a mark of pride that I do it just with the one. Yeah, tightness. I was really tight with my cast-ons when I started out, and it's just, yeah, you can do it. I know that there are people who do it one-handed, and I have at times been able to do it, but you go like that and then under. Yeah, it's very awkward for me to do, but yeah, you can do it one-handed. But yeah, I always just go up, as Woben's saying, go up a needle size will work wonders for your cast-on tension. I mean, because look, this corrugated ribbing like that. I mean, granted, corrugated ribbing isn't super stretchy anyway, but I feel like I did a good job on the tension of the cast-on there, where it's not too tight. And casting off as well. I will often cast off, go up a needle size for the cast off, because mine, just because of my tight tension, always tends to be, I run a risk of doing it too tightly. Oh, thank you. But yeah, do two hands as well. Like, especially if you're a thrower like I am, doing a two-handed long tail is just a modified knitting action, really. The one-handed looks cool. It looks impressive when I see people do it, but I'm just slightly more awkward with my left hand for tensioning it properly. And I feel like if I did it one-handed, the tension would come out way too tight. I'm gonna have to go soon, folks. I haven't had lunch yet, and I'm starting to get a little hungry. So maybe I'll finish this round. Thanks for the follow! Ruin the power of River Maya. That's awesome. I've picked up so many new friends today. I am on Twitter, by the way. If any of you want to follow me on Twitter, I will put my Twitter name in the chat as well. It's a very silly name. I am at web_goddess. Oops, come on Twitter. That's me on Twitter, if you want to follow me over there. I work in tech, so it is a mixture of knitting and tech. Uh-oh, got a knot coming up. Well, the username, my blog, I registered a domain, was actually when I was living in London. My original blog was a friend of mine in working with me in London. He was a Scottish guy, Glaswegian, and he called me the web goddess, which was hilarious. And this was in like 2000 in the .com boom. I was working in London. And I registered web-goddess.co.uk was my first blog when I was living in London. And then I'm just going to go back a little bit so I can join that on. That's long enough. And then when I moved to Australia, the .co.uk seemed a bit wrong. So it eventually, now my blog is at web-goddess.org. But of course, you got to be really careful to remember to leave the hyphen in, because just about every permutation other than that is porn. My blog keeps getting blocked by parental filters. But I've been blogging for like 20 years at that. I mean, I don't post much anymore. Lately, it's just been about adjusting to life in Germany for my family. I was debating on whether I should spit felt these together, but I really don't trust this yarn. It just tends to fall apart in your hands. It's an interesting question if I keep the start of the round in the same place. Because I'm thinking once I go up and I start... Oh yeah, I will. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just trying to think of like, if I leave it at the underarm, yeah, I'll leave it at the underarm. What am I thinking? That, of course, that's the best place for it. Because if I divide for the front and back, that's fine. I'm just thinking I won't have a jog. I won't have a noticeable jog. And if I just leave it there at the side seam, it's going to be under the arm, so you won't see it. That's a good place for it. All right, end of the round, and nearly 3 hours of streaming, so I will probably sign off, head down for lunch. Thank you so much. This was absolutely amazing. I will 100% return the favor once I understand how rating works, and I will raid other people's streams. But it's been lovely meeting all of you, and I hope you'll come back and join me again. As I said, usually this time every weekend I do this, and I'll be on the lookout. I'm going to go through and follow a bunch of you if you stream as well, so hopefully I'll get to see some of yours. And thank you so much. It's been really awesome. It's lovely to meet you. I feel almost like I've been in a knitting circle and not locked in my house as I've been for the last 3 months. So everyone have a great week, and hopefully I'll see some of you later on. Bye.